Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Kerbal Kolonisation project. This is episode 3, and today the plan is to do a few things with planes, but first of all, I have slightly altered our little science rover, and we're just going to run around for a bit and gather some more. Okay then, I hope you enjoyed that little speeded up run round the KSC. We've taken Bob out and got quite a bit more science. Yes, that strategy was worth having. 144.9 science earned during that one run. We've now got 177. And we've recovered 7,770 funds. Lovely. And we've got Bob back, ready to go off on our next adventure, whatever that might be. 2.5 reputation from doing that as well. We've now got a total of 46, which is excellent. And Bob's now got his Research 3 ribbon, awarded for researching 100 or more science points. Fantastic. So, if we go and have a look into mission control, we have all these available contracts. What I'm thinking of doing is, because we've got a lot of things here that we can't yet do very easily, so what we're going to do is have a look at some of the focused surveys and see if we can get some of those done. Now, the ones above a certain height are going to be a little bit challenging with the tech we have, so we'll ignore those, and actually I'm going to just decline them. Yes, I know, Gene. Not good, is it? That one, however, is below. So we'll take that. That's above, so we won't bother with that one. Yes, I know. I know, Gene. It'll be fine. That one is also below, though. So we'll take that one. And that's another one that's below, but we are now maxed out on our contracts. Never mind. So let's go and have a look at the tracking station, see where these actually are. So if we have a look at the tracking station, we can now see where these are. They are, that one we haven't taken yet is actually quite close. The other two are a little bit of a distance, so we're going to have to make sure we've got a plane. First though, we'll pop over to research and development and see what we can spend our 177 science on, hopefully things that will help. So having a look at the tech tree, 177 science will get us a fair amount of stuff actually at this level. We can now grab early aviation for 18, which will give us more wings, because we can get that because it's literally one science. We'll also grab general rocketry for 18. And now we start getting into some proper stuff. Flight control, which is basically RCS ports. Not an enormous amount of use on an aircraft, but aviation might well be. That's a bigger engine and engine nacelles and some better landing gear as well. So that might be worth grabbing for 45. What does that open up? Wings 3, which will help with designing a plane that actually manages to get into the air. And aerodynamics for 90, which, yes, we can get. We can get aerodynamics at the moment. That's basically VTOLs and nose cones and some stuff to protect things as you fly, which actually might not be that useful at this present moment in time. What have we got in gizmos? We have capacitors, batteries, solar panels, radiators, lights even, which should be quite nice. Or shall we just go with aerodynamics? Or even advanced rocketry actually, because that will mean we can start taking things up into space. We might need a few of these things. Decisions. Flight control actually gives us an inline reaction wheel, which would help for getting into orbit and getting actually into space. So let's take that. And that starts to open up things that we now no longer have stuff for. Well, let's take general construction as well, shall we? Because that's got things like decouplers and slightly bigger fuel tanks as well. Yeah, so we'll take that. But we have contracts for planes. So we will go and build a plane, and I will meet you on the runway to see if we can actually get it into the air. So here we are with our plane. Our first plane. This is the Princess Romy. And we've got some contracts to complete. So let's first of all get up the waypoint manager, because we've got a load of things to go and take temperature surveys at. We'll hide the resources, we don't need that at the moment. Yes, measure the temperature in flight below these two places. So we've got to get there. This plane should get there quite easily, hopefully. Let's first of all, let's just check the map, see exactly where these are. We have moved on to the next morning just to make sure that we've got plenty of light. So A, I can see what I'm doing, and B, you can see it. Both of these places are not that far away from KSC, so let's see how this goes, shall we? We also have our action groups set up to do things, including stop and start the engine. So let's go to Engineer's Curiosity first, shall we? We are 47 kilometres away from that. We have Valentina on board. So SAS on. Throttle to full. Let's see how well we get on. Brakes off. Should take off at about 60 metres per second or so. There we go. 60 and a bit. we're already getting really fast. This actually will go quite quick. Let's retract the landing gear. This plane will easily break the sound barrier. Yeah, and it's really quite responsive. If anything, it's a little bit too responsive. So in that sort of direction, we need to change direction ever so slightly there, don't we? Just to make sure we're actually aiming at the position. We don't want to go too high either. As I say, flies quite nicely. Let's just make sure we don't fall too fast. Keep climbing. So essentially what we have is the inline cockpit, an engine, a nacelle and a little bit of fuel. We're using the Weasley. Actually, let's cut the engine almost entirely, just so we don't go quite too fast. Yes, the Weasley turbofan engine is what we're using. The nacelle here is what's giving us access to air. Standard delta wing and elevons. We are, what, 2.5 minutes away according to that. According to the readout from Waypoint Manager below our altitude meter. And we're flying quite nicely. Fingers crossed we continue to fly quite nicely. As I say, landing it is going to be the problem because it gets so fast and it's not that easy to get rid of the speed. We're still climbing, nearly 3.5, closing in on 4 kilometres up. We don't need to go too high, we just need to be below the target height, which I don't think we're going to get to somehow. We may not even hit cloud. Valentina looks perfectly happy. 90 seconds away, just over 16 kilometres. I have action groups for both thermometers. I've got 2 thermometers on it, one either side of the cockpit. There's one there and there's one there. Because we've basically got to do the same thing in 2 separate places. So we've got them on action groups just to make sure that we manage to do them separately, because clicking that is not necessarily the easiest thing in the world, but having said that, it's fairly straightforward at the moment. While we're on our way, in graphical issues, let's grab a shot of it in flight as it looks so majestic. We're actually entering clouds, and there we are, we're entering the area, so we'll take that to keep the data. So that's that one completed. Let's head now for Samble's Sanity, which we're actually getting further and further away from. That's behind us basically, so we do need to turn. So let's start to bank. We might need to actually increase the thrust a little bit, just so we don't start falling out of the sky. So we are falling there, but we are at least now aiming in the right direction. Of course, KSC after I left. Make sure we are aiming dead straight. Actually, yes, we are dropping height where we were. Actually, this stays quite stable, surprisingly. Planes are not my strong suit in KSP, never have been. But this one works quite well. But it did have to go through quite a bit of testing in a testing save to make sure that it would actually work. But finally ended up with a design that will do these short flights quite happily. So yes, we do have a testing save to make sure that everything works. Reverting flights is not an option in this save. But having said that, that's because any time that anything goes horribly wrong, we're stuck with it. So basically, any fuck-ups are my fault. And we will have to take the consequences. Especially if that involves the death of a Kerbal. We've still got them all at the moment. How long that will remain the case remains to be seen. We are doing 300 meters per second at just over 6 kilometres height. Not bad. That's nearly the sound barrier. On the Kerbal Engineer readout I do actually have the Mach number, 0.95 at the moment. It's just angled down ever so slightly, which actually will speed us up a bit, won't it? But that's not necessarily a problem. We've got the time to slow down from the mountains, hopefully. Let's also just grab our science stuff, see what we can actually get hold of. We're over the highlands at the moment. Also dropping in height quite considerably there. Let's actually switch that to height above the land. And just toggle the SAS off and on, just to make sure. Mountains looming up in front of us. Two minutes away, not quite. 29 kilometres to go. And then we've got to get back to the KSC. There are no parachutes on this plane. So yes, we actually have to land properly on the wheels, somewhere vaguely in the right place. Vaguely in the right place is going to be the difficult bit. Unfortunately, it's a fairly cloudy morning. This is not ideal. Not brilliant flying conditions. Just increase the thrust just a little bit. Just turn ever so slightly, make sure we actually do head for the right place. So a minute away. We won't get all that close, because we'll pass underneath it by quite some distance. But we're getting there. Are we there yet? No, we are not. Not quite in the right place as yet. Just wanted to make sure I hadn't actually missed it. Because it does pop up there to say you're arriving. But it can be very easy to miss. But flying nearly over the mountains, well, we are flying over the mountains. Let's do a crew report, because that'll be more science. And that's completed that contract. So we've now got the temperature scan as well. So now we need to head back to the KSC. So let's just make sure we've got plenty of fuel left. We do. Let's hide the contracts and get our resources back up. And then let's aim for the KSC. So now we can see exactly where that is. And again, we now need to turn, because we're flying in completely the wrong direction. Rather a steep bank. But flying quite well. Let's actually start to head down a little bit. We can come at the KSC from any direction. I'm not too fussed about having to land on the runway. Indeed, Valentina. So we turn and head back towards the Kerbal Space Center, where, fingers crossed, we will land successfully. 45 kilometres away. There we go, sort of lined up. Let's pull the throttle back so we don't end up going too fast. Of course we will speed up as we come down towards the ground a bit. Actually, we could probably pull that thrust down almost completely. Two minutes out. Speed is dropping and height is also dropping. We are now 6 kilometres up. Plenty of distance to glide into the KSC. The problem with this plane is its speed. It can get really, really quick. And that could be a problem when you're coming into land. If we're going too fast, you may find that we have to circle the Space Centre for a bit, just to bleed off a bit of speed. But we certainly need to be a bit lower than we are now. We're dropping quite rapidly. But so far, an excellent first flight. This is actually the first time any Kerbal has left the ground. It will, however, not be the last. We have an enormous amount of things to do in this save. Let's just flare a little bit just to try and lead off a bit of speed. It's still falling. We're lined up almost perfectly with the KSC. I doubt we'll hit the runway. Speed is still dropping, which is excellent. We're still flying quite happily. Just letting speed drop off. Let the height come down a bit, just so we're not too far above the ground when we need to be a bit nearer so we can land. Now obviously you haven't seen the build process for this. I would be interested to know whether you would like to see the build process for various craft. I'm currently in sort of two minds. If you'd like to see me do it in some way, please do let me know. Also, if you desperately don't want to see the build process, let me know as well. I'm perfectly happy to film them. It's whether we could get them successfully into the body of the actual video. That's what I'm slightly concerned by. I've never yet seen anybody do it and thought, oh yes, that really works. But if you wish to see them, by all means tell me and I will find a way of doing it. So 163 meters per second and slightly rising. Now it's dropping, thank God. Flare the wings against the airstream and that will slow it down quite considerably. We do need to drop quite a bit more speed though. We're also now very low, as you can see. We're just 100 meters off the ground. And the ground is rising. That's not helpful. Let's drop the landing gear. That's a bit better. We're flying now at just over 100 meters per second and the ground is coming up to meet us, so let's rise over this little hill, add a bit of thrust. Well, we're coming in, but I can't guarantee we'll hit the runway. We might, but not if we do shit like that though. Slow. This is going to be interesting. I think we're just not quite lined up with the runway enough. Speed drop. Ooh, this is going to be interesting. Well, we're down. We're going to run off the runway though. Let's put the brakes on. I think we're going to be okay. I actually think we're going to be okay. There we go. Down at 13 metres per second. Let's taxi into the spaceplane hangar, shall we? As I say, this ship is lovely and manoeuvrable. This plane, should I say. Lovely. Well done, Valentina Kerbal. That's an excellent first flight, and to boot we've managed to do a couple of contracts en route. How wonderful. Good. So we'll shut the engine down. That's not bad at all. Let's get her out, shall we? As she's done so wonderfully well. And yeah, she'll fall to the ground, but never mind. Yes, very well done. Let's recover that and see how well we're doing. Well, that got us not a great deal of science, obviously. Got no science earned from that, which is interesting. 6 science returned. We now have 6 science. Valentina is now ready for her next assignment and has 1 XP. So that's Valentina returned, nice and safely. Let's grab the plane itself. And that got us 14.7 science. So we now have 20 science, which is good. Very good, actually. We've recovered most of the funds we spent to actually get the thing out into the atmosphere in the first place. Apart from the actual purchase of the parts that we needed to build it. So yeah, we're not doing too bad. We now have a total of 20 science. Can we actually research anything for that? I don't think we can, actually. No, we can't. We're not quite there yet. So I will see you in episode 4 of the Kerbal Kolonisation project to see whether we can actually start looking at getting into space.